Hello everyone and welcome to Extreme Graphics Tech. Well, one of the things I want to do with the channel is from time to time take an old game and play through modern hardware, especially because with modern hardware you can play these games at settings and quality resolutions that you could not when they were launched, at least not unless you were very rich. So the point of this is to see old games through new technology, new lenses, resolution, and see how well they still hold today. And as you can see, the first game I'm testing now is Batman Arkham Asylum, and the reason is because I honestly think this is still a very good looking game even though it was launched in 2009. However, there are some things that we can see now that we thought that they were normal at the time. For example, this is an Unreal Engine 3 game and it's quite evident by many things that you can say now that is an Unreal game, especially at the time. They all had this kind of particular look. The textures were very, I will say now, strange, because they had this like sort of plasticky metallic look to the point where even the characters sort of looks more like plastic than actual real characters, because the skin was not really realistic. Now this is a very good looking game even today, especially when we're playing a 4K and 144 FPS. However, we can see some things that or techniques that were used at the time to make the games attractive. To begin with, we can see how most of the light is baked, so it's a fake light just placed in order for you know, give some mood, or the textures seems like they have some light but they are the actual textures are like that. Some lights, of course, for example this one does change the color of the character and some of the enemies, but then are other lights in place that you can see they don't cast shadow or anything. Of course, these are just limitations of the time. Well, here you can see the characters rendering faces and so on, and you can see how they were not really smooth and they have this particular look. You can see that they don't look natural and they are kind of polygonal. But however, I have to say Batman looks very good, and we have to remember this is a 2009 game that launched on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, so at the time this was really a technological marvel. And even though we can see, you know, all the defects now, this is still a pretty good game to play if you have an old system. So if you haven't played this, I would recommend you to do it, because as you can see, you will be able to play this with anything and it will still look very good. In this case, I want to remark, you see this is another thing. We have evolved a lot, right? The characters now have these really cool animations and they sort of blend together, but you can see here how Batman is running and all the animations are very cyclical, so it looks more robotic even though they were natural by the time. You can see that they have like this starting and finish point, and when he moves from or does one change and then another, it's not completely it doesn't morph between animations. Now you can see that even when the character is running, it looks more natural. It doesn't look like it's something repetitive, but more like natural walking or how you will do it. So it's interesting to see these old games through new lenses today, because you can see so many of the things that because people say, oh, we haven't evolved, or many times I've heard, oh, this looks like a PlayStation 3 game, you know, as a way to say that the game doesn't look good. Well, to begin with, I think this game looks good, but also it's not true. There are many nuances and little details that makes game maybe not look as different as your mind may trick you to think, but they do actually look different, because it's those little details that makes the game every single time more and more realistic. Is that why many people complain about ray tracing? But those little details, that a little bit of extra shadow or global illumination or things like that will make a whole bunch of difference. Another thing, I don't know if you have noticed, but at the time there was this tendency to make all games kind of brownish and, you know, metallic or blues, and it was kind of a boring look. I understand for Batman it looks okay, but this is how old games tend to be at the time. I don't know why they chose this aesthetic. So that's why some games that like Final Fantasy 13, which is probably not a great game, however graphically it was so different and nice, it was colorful and using their own technology, that it was a refreshing, at least from a standpoint. Here in this fight you can see what I mean with the but, you know, you see how the character just displays, even though he's not moving, he just moves forward like he is on rollers, just to be able to hit. Nowadays they have created animations in between to be able to morph and sort this sort of thing, so that looks quite interesting. However, you saw that even the particles, for example, they have bounce. That's quite interesting to see. And in this game, when the particle fell to the floor and they bounce, many games nowadays don't do that, they just go through. So you can see that they decided where to put their resources at the time, but it's still quite good. Another thing about the lightning is that you can see on all these areas that they used to fake some sort of HDR and bloom thing, and they used to it used to be used a lot because they didn't have the, you know, they couldn't use like a proper fog, so they used like this bloom to convey distance or ambience. And well, I'm not a super fan of it now. Maybe at the time it looked okay, but now I think it's too fussy for my liking. However, the lights, as I was saying, they do trying to create some sort of fake HDR, and it, you know, when it was very bright, I mean, they would try to like burn out, create this very white thing, and it used to wash out the color just because they were trying to fake that sort of big highlight. So they will turn to burn the image. So at the time this was used a lot, and I think one of the first games to use this sort of resources was Half-Life, and then every single game was using it. This is not an open world game, but we had some open areas. It wasn't until the second game that this, you know, we were going to the actual city. Right now it's more like little hubs interconnected between them. And they, you know, at the time it was a really nice looking game, but I think it's on the second where they really nail, because the look and everything, they improve everything that made Unreal 3 great. If I'm not wrong, even the third game in the series that was on PlayStation 4 still uses Unreal Engine 3, but oh god, when we get there we are going to be seeing, and this is a series of videos that I'm going to be doing, so yes, we're going to get there. The next game is obviously Arkham City, and then we are going to see Arkham Knight. So as you can see here, the trees on the background, they look weird, like they are going up and down when you move around. You know, that was some of the limitations of 2D trees and so on, to try to squeeze them as much as possible. I have to say that also at the time, ports to PC didn't tend to be very good. They were actually quite bad normally. So I don't know if at the time this game ran okay, because I finished this game on Xbox 360, and then even though I had the game on PC at the time, for some reason I was obsessed with like trophies and stuff, so I played this game on Xbox at the time. So I'm not quite sure how I ran the second game and so on. I started to play more on PC because, well, obviously it looked better. This was another cool trick that the game did. That was like the detective part of the game, where you could change like views. There were not too many games that did this at the time, but now every single game seems to have some sort of this form of gameplay when it's like an action adventure game. That depends, Horizon and many others comes to my mind at the moment, but it was a quite good thing to do at the time. So this was like a Metroidvania game. It was a third-person, you know, action game. So it was sort of a Metroidvania. You were, you know, finding new weapons to be able to keep going, and it was so well received. And I think it started and put in place what is what all superhero games are measured to. And I think this is the reason many people are so disappointed at the moment with Suicide Squad, because it's from the same team that made this great trilogy, and then they're now with this gas game that it seems like nobody wants. So I hope we are just wrong and the games end up being great. But well, anyway, as I was saying, you can see here that this graphically the games still look quite attractive. At the time, it really blew many people's mind, and mine included. I thought this, you know, it was phenomenal, even though at the time I was running at just 720p 30 FPS, while now, well, we can see here it's just running at 4K 144 Hz without, you know, any issues whatsoever. It's just great. And even another thing that is weird, if you see here in this, is for such an old game, there is not much of a like object drawing on the distance. You don't see many things being drawn or shadows being drawn. Everything was there. Nowadays, that's for me is one of the worst problems. It's just this everything appearing in front of your eyes, and I really don't like that. I wish they put options on PC for you to set your drawing distance like to infinity, because I hate seeing things appearing in front of me on any games, shadows or objects or anything else. So many Assassin's Creed games at the game, they try to use blend modes, pixel modes and so on, but they still look kind of annoying to my eyes. But well, anyway, so here we are. Just to show you how well the games run, I'm going to show you the metrics for the RTX 4090. So you can see here that, well, the game is not doing anything to my GPU or CPU. We are at 144 FPS, you know, no problems whatsoever, and the game is just running fantastic. By the way, this is a good opportunity also to test all these games on an Intel Arc 750, because these are old games, and we know Arc 750 has an issue with old games. So I thought in this retro analysis to also put in place some test with the Arc 750, so we can see by ourselves which game has issues and which game does not. This game runs so well, as you can see here. This is the 2060, which is running at 40% of capacity, and it's still running the game at 4K Ultra. So this is just crazy. You can run this game with anything. And the weird thing is that 122 FPS. It should be limited to 120, but for some reason it goes to 122. And to be able to, because this game is capped at 60, you need a launcher. So there is more programs that you can use that will allow you to uncap the game to any frame rate that you want. So if you have a high refresh rate monitor, I would recommend you to get the game. You can get it on the PC game wiki for this game. There you will find a launcher to be able to launch this game, uncap to improve certain areas of the game, like ambient occlusion and so on. So at the end of the day, you can make the game look a little bit better than it used to look at the time. So here you see the Arc 750, which is you can see that it's running at 40 FPS, right? And it's weird, but it's not always running like this. It's like running on certain specific points, because then you can see the arc shining and going above 100 FPS. But I am not sure if it's just the resolution, but as you can see, the GPU is only being used like 60 to 70%, so there is no actual reason for the CPU to now go over this, considering it's the same CPU that we were using for the 2060. So at some point you can see the car going up even lower than 60 to 45 FPS, and then the car will ramp up to 100 FPS on very similar scenes. So there is nothing specific as what make this game run like that. You see, now here we are over 80. Why is that? I cannot say. This is very weird from my point of view, but we know the Arc 750 have these issues, and well, this is part of their problem, and why not? It's not recommended if you want to play old games. It's not bad, but it's not as smooth as a 2060. So depending on what you want to achieve with your car, or what games you want to play, it's better to know exactly what you're getting into when you buy an Intel Arc 750. For any new game, it's not bad. So you can see here that it's running at over 100 FPS, no problems, no glitches, everything seems fine, but there is no clear indication. So well guys, I hope you like this mini retro analysis, and I would love for you to tell me what you want to see improve, what other games you would like to see here, because you know, I am open to all your suggestions and what can be improved. What would you like me to explain better, or to take more time to show other cars? You would like me to include more cars, even though I think it's more than enough the way it is, considering, you know, that if I show you this game's running on a 2060 at 4K, you already can have an idea how easy or hard it is to move it. So, but anyway, I'm open to all suggestions, especially if you know what you want to see improve from the video, and also what games you would like for me to test on this retro analysis and to talk about, because the whole point is also to talk about my own experience with the game and what I think about it, so you can also know about the game I'm talking about. Thank you very much, and see you on the next video.